All right. It is indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us at this edition of The Tackle. It is the 28th of October 2022, tarehe 28 mwezi wa 10 mwaka 2022. Natumai kwamba kwa salama umeamka vizuri. It's a new day. It's another Friday, the 28th of October 2022. It's the Sharia Wiki edition of the 28th of October 2022. And it begins right now. Kama kaida, when you join in, please like when you like. We get to know that you're watching us. And that way, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join in, please like when you like. We get to know that you're watching us. And that way, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the Sharia Wiki edition of the 28th of October 2022. Na tuko na daktari EKURU AUKOT kama kawaida. Na pia tuko na ARNOLD MALIBA. Tuko na ARNOLD MALIBA, waziri ARNOLD MALIBA. Lesikia sijui kama lisomea kimakosa. Okay. But waziri. In other news, finally, Sakaja got to announce his CC lineup, his executive lineup, his government executive lineup, the county cabinet lineup. He got announced it last week. There's been some mamas and some happy. Some are still complaining. Some are saying, how do we have opposition people in government? Some are saying, well, that's the best way to do it. And that's just also the Muslim community of Kenya has come out to claim that Sakaja has not named a proper cabinet, and they say they're not going to accept it. Now news again that the President William Samuel, we're struggling to call him the president. We still call him the deputy president. The President William Samuel Ruto yesterday also sworn his cabinet into office. Is it sworn or swore his cabinet into office? All right. So that's some of the things we'll be looking at. And also the DCI debacle that's happening. We are talking about the extrajudicial killings. Hundreds of Kenyans have been killed, are claimed to have been killed by the elite squad in the police service. And also we're talking about Kenyans who have disappeared, forced disappearance, and anything around that thing. There has been injustice to Kenyans. Investigation has commenced, and we have police officers who are being investigated for the same. Disarmed and investigated. Kama kawaida, lazima tuende meza mguu tuombe, alafu tukirudi basi tunakuja kujua ni vipi na lipi. All right, mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this day, and thank you for this conversation. We thank you for every tackler as they join us. May you meet them and their individual needs. For you pray, trusting and believing. Amen and amen. All right. When you join, please let us know also where you're watching us from. I'm seeing Timo KE and Kimomo Eldoret Ndani. Let's up with Kenya Kwanza. Now having said this one in life will get better going forward. All right. And it's Timo KE on Facebook. When you join in, please like and let us know where you're watching us from. Please like and let us know where you're watching us from on YouTube as well. I'm saying guys have joined it. Good morning. Guys are YouTube Vini Macha and I'm live from Doha na Karibuni World Cup. World Cup tutakuja. And it's very interesting that we have a dose here. We have an expose that's coming up a few days on Netflix, a few days to the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. It'll be interesting to see. All right, let's look at the traffic situation on the roads very quickly. Ngong Road looks all clean this morning, nothing to worry about. Looking at Mbagathi Way or Raila Odinga Way. That's also one thing that he refused to learn. He refused to call Mbagathi Way Raila Odinga Way. But it's looking all clean this morning. Looking at the Kenyatta roundabout heading towards Apai, looks all clean as well. Kenyatta roundabout heading towards Alingam, a bit jammed up, but it looks all clean. Van Road looks all clean this morning inbound into town. Looking at Queen's Kodak, very clean this morning. Nothing to worry about on that side of the road. Kitanga Road looks all clean as well. Naivasha Road looks all clean. Ngong Road coming in from Lexo or Pathway heading towards the junction looks jammed up. Looks crazy. All the way from Lexo Petrol Station on Ngong Road or Pathway heading towards the junction. Looking at Mombasa Road, all clean. Nothing to worry about this morning as well. Nothing to worry about. Looking at Thika Road. Thika Road at least is doing better this morning. The traffic situation, the traffic build-up is beginning from KCA University heading towards the Muthaiga Road Exchange. Looking at looking at Kiambu Road. Kiambu Road looks all clean. Nothing to worry about. It looks a bit clean. Some small build-up, but nothing to worry about at all. Look at Limuru Road, all clean, but traffic building up from the Aga Khan University heading into town. But yeah, that's it. Nothing to really scare you. That's how the traffic is looking like this morning. Let us know as well how the traffic situation is looking like on your hand. On the journey, please let us know where you're using us from. Manuel Sirma, Egerton University tuned in. Watu wa Egerton namna gani? Nilisikia shule imekwama. Shule haina pesa, haina lecturers, haina nini, lakini bado mko shule. Mungu ni mwema. Lagan Matthew watching from Israel. Good morning. Good morning to you, all the guys from Israel. All right. Good morning, Arnold.
Morning, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm surprised to be still here with you. I thought ningekuwa tumekaa pahali penye sasa Bitoku ni waziri. Nini litendeka?
Mambo ya dunia. Mambo ni mengi mazale machache. But wewe ndio nilisikia ulikuwa huko. Mimi hata nimeshangaa. Unajua nilipiga simu yako nikapata inaingia. Nikashtuka kumbe waziri hajabadilisha laini.
But kuna case kama court ita-allow.
But I thought that had been, I thought that had been approved already. They had done already the recruitment, the advertisement.
They did proceed, but then the court actually did an extension that the process stops.
When again?
The chairperson of LSK, on the same day he was in State House, he actually said that the court had actually granted them more time and barred PSC from proceeding. So if PSC proceeds, that will still be impunity.
Okay.
Let's just hope that this will not be William's first attempt at ignoring the courts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts on the same?
I know it's
on the case.
If he actually feels like it's important to create the job, I would still insist that it's too early for him to actually start the process where, or to start processes doing them like his predecessor, of course, his brother, Uhuru, who thought that court orders were written in pencil and he will always erase what he doesn't like. So I think that we have got an existing court order. PSC can wait. They did the process just as they had. The court gave an advisory. They were following that particular pace. Why can't they just while through and proceed?
Okay.
What's the hurry in ignoring court orders, for example, and PSC doing a clarification and saying that the application goes on? Yeah.
Dr. Good morning.
I think on that issue of CAS, the truth be told, I think this I can say without hesitation. This is William Ruto's first mistake as president.
Okay.
Because Article 132, I think it's Article 4, if I'm not wrong, B, is very, very categorical that yes, the president has powers to create an office in the public service, but only on advice from the Public Service Commission. Now, Public Service Commission being a state organ, a constitutional organ, is bound by Article 10 of National Values and Principles of Governance, meaning one of those issues there in the principles of governance is public participation. Now, the courts have already established what public participation actually means. It has to be meaningful participation of the people. There has to be consultation, and we must see it. Just like the way the failed BBI attempted to do public participation, although it was cosmetic, but at least you can say in the case of BBI, there was indeed some...
You saw people somewhere.
You saw people. I mean, of course, they were going to high-end hotels, and it was not open to the public. So again, that's why the court said, no, this is not meaningful public participation. And if you draw parallels with the constitution-making process, for example, when we used to go around the country, we'll go to a town hall and it will be open to everyone, and we'll announce in advance that we'll be in EKURU, we'll be in this place, we'll be in Narok, we'll be in Sotik, wherever, and people will come. They'll come with memoranda. Some will speak orally. So that's what meaningful participation actually means.
Okay.
In the case of this CAS, first of all, it even contradicts William Ruto's own narrative, of Asla narrative. And there are certain things that Kenyans really must speak from this. On the day they are being sworn in, Rigiji Gachagua, the deputy president, said that they only inherited 93 million in the public coffers, but they went on to spend 200 million in the swearing in. Then they went on to spend, I think, another 200 plus million in the shuttling that William Ruto took the team to Unga, which of course was a right for him to go to the UN General Assembly, then went to bury the Queen and a few other places. So if we don't have money as a country and we are really broke, as they say we are broke, and indeed I think we are broke, so why do we create more positions that are actually going to eat into the little that we do not even have in the first place? Okay. This is a time, in my view, for William Ruto to demonstrate that he can actually apply some austerity measures to cut down on public expenditure. The truth for the matter be talk is this. A lot of our money, including the loans that we borrow, actually go into recurrent expenditure, paying of salaries, allowances, and all that. And it's at the expense, for example, of even attempting to curb, for example, the famine and drought that is right now killing Kenyans. So I think for a country, and this is a thing for me, free and solicited advice to President William Ruto, be be cautious about, what positions you create. Because as a country, first of all, and we'll come to the cabinet later. Another parallel to draw is the fact that we have got about 70% unemployment in Kenya, if not more. Yeah? But if you look at, for example, his cabinet, you are re-employing people who are already comfortable in their own zones. We're talking about, in fact, I spoke to an economist who told me that to know the real value of those cabinet secretaries, you multiply by 3. So actually, this is a billionaire cabinet. So billionaire cabinet,
you multiply by what?
In the context of a hustler nation, using their own narrative, unemployment of so much. So I think for me, the CAS position, we don't need it as a country. As a matter of fact, it's just another mizigo tunaongezea wa Kenya. There are so many positions, in my view, that must really go in this country. Some of these commissions, we don't need them because they're just gobbling billions of Kenyan shillings. We don't see any value in them. For example, I have a problem even with the deputy governor's position. They're just decoration, they're ceremonial. It is political maneuvering. Yeah, that because I want to be elected as a governor, so let me speak to Arnold because Arnold comes from another region in my county that can attract people. See, okay, one of our own. It's a fallacy. This thing of saying that mtu wetu lazima akuwe kwa serikali, it doesn't share his salary or the allowances with the rest of you. So, but more importantly for me, let's look at the cost of governing this country. Can we really afford it? And especially since it's more about recurrent expenditure than development. That's where we really must focus on. And I think William Ruto had better really rethink pushing for this position. Like I say to you, Bitok, we like to prophesy here politically.
Yes, Unabi.
I'll be honest with you. These are political rewards. There'll be political rewards. Okay. There are many people in William Ruto's campaign that were not nominated as CSS. Some will not make it as PSS. So they will only be accommodated as either chief administrative secretaries or ambassadorial positions. So now, if you go the reward way politically in governing a country, what about the people who actually voted for you? And I think if Ruto is not very careful, the truth for the matter is that his government is a minority government.
Okay, is it?
Yes, it is a minority government. Can I crack the figures for you?
Yes.
Statistics show, I don't know how true they are, but that's what it's there, that there are 30 million Kenyans, adults, 30 million adults who are eligible to register to vote and to make a choice about the kind of government they want. Now, 22 million of those 30 million adults registered as voters.
So you have 8 million.
So 8 million did not see the need to register as voters and therefore to have a voice in the kind of government they want. 14 million voted. 8 million stayed away. If you had 8 million plus 8 million,
16 million.
That is 16 million. Then there is about 6 point something million of them who did not vote for Ruto. That's about 22 million. So Ruto's 7.2 million comparatively, compared to the eligible voters in Kenya who can actually have a voice into the kind of government, you can actually conclude logically that this is a minority government. And I'm sharing this information so that Ruto can say, how do I reward all Kenyans? Because right now he's our president, regardless whether you did not vote for him or not. He's our president. So I think for me, he needs to do things in his government that actually endear him to the people. And I want to believe that he may want to be re-elected in 2027. And like I've said before, if he's not careful, he will make history 2 ways. As the first person to have a shot at the presidency and gets that first shot. But he might also be the first president to only serve 1 term.
Okay. All right. Lots of fun is celebrating. I'm saying fun is celebrating a birthday. Eva Jeb Kema, happy birthday to you, Eva. Many more happy returns. And if you are celebrating any birthday as well as your tackler is celebrating any birthday today, I want to wish you a very happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. May everything happen and be good to you. Happy New Year to you. Happy fresh New Year. Talking about being the first person to serve 1 term in Meru County.
Is that even a term?
Wameru amesema mwangaza aleti mwangaza. And an impeachment petition has been filed. And people are arguing that you need 18 months. At least you need to let at least the governor eat some salary for 1 year before you impeach them. So in Meru, they have decided mapema and your best. Arnold.
Well, before I speak about kuna giza mwangani, I think
kuna nuru gizani.
Kabla tuzungumzie, I actually think I'd like us to actually, I just want to build up on what Senior has actually brought up on William's way of actually doing cabinet. And it's true that a third of Kenyans are eligible to vote have not registered as voters.
Okay.
And then close to a third voted for William. Actually, another third didn't vote.
Okay.
Literally, if you were to play it around, all of them didn't turn out. So it's true that if we were to look at, if we were to quantify the vote, then his is actually is a leadership of the minority. He has got the legitimacy, yes, but it's a very lean one because even the difference between Raila and him is a mere 233,000 votes. So it's not so big. Even as he says that he's looking forward to a robust opposition, which is fair, fair call, yes. But I'd like him to probably borrow a leaf from Sakaja. I know William is a master. Sakaja might not equal to him, but there's something Sakaja did. Even with all his weaknesses, Sakaja went out and realized that he doesn't have a county assembly at his beck and call. So he reached out to Capitol Hill and spoke to Raila. I think that is why it took him so well. He reached out to Raila and took a few of Raila's aides are actually in his cabinet. You can actually see, if you look at Sakaja's cabinet, it's not just a mix and match of UDA. And sometimes for purposes of governance, statecraft is much more than just running and winning elections. So he reached out. There is some little bit of sprinkling from ODM. There's a little bit of UDA, of course. I have seen an attempt by Kalonzo to actually also show up and make. And then you can also see ANC. He tried to balance out, except where he left out the Muslim community that feels that they were left out. And fair enough, the Muslims in this country actually play an important role. The only problem I have is that when I saw the press conference, the voice for the Muslim community was almost synonymous with the Somali community. So probably we need to actually know whether, I come from Mumias, and we in Mumias are people with the two names. You will actually find Naitwa Rashid, and the other name is John. As in
John 50-50. Rashid Maliba.
If you come to Mumias, we are 50-50. Yeah. Whole family is Christian. You're either Catholic in Mumias or you're Muslim on the other side. So we should also not synonymize the Muslim community with just looking at the north and the coast. There's a very robust Muslim community in the west, for example. So I think on that one, he needs to find ways of actually coming out. But William should actually have also found out. But also, I know when we say these things, people tell us, enda shinda kura wepi utengeneze serikali yako. That's how people actually respond to us. But you do not have to be a cook to know bad food. You easily tell if food is bad. You don't have to have gone to Italy, for example. So you don't have to win an election to know. If it's not good food, you will know.
It's not good.
Yeah, so sometimes even when somebody is working out things and you realize they've got some gaps, that's why we have got a voice, and especially those of us in public space. So I'm hoping that, and like Senior EKURU, I actually think that the CAS position is important.
Okay.
It's important in that I have worked under cabinet secretary, for example. She's now a governor somewhere. And I'll tell you, there is so much gaps. We brought in guys who thought that being a cabinet secretary is coming to save government from itself. So you come in and even you go to parliament, which is the supreme organ of this country, and they look down upon members of parliament. So you find members of parliament who, instead of actually making cabinet secretaries accountable, wanaenda kuwashabikia. So when a cabinet secretary shows up in parliament, members are there to cheer and support them, just the same way we will do when we were in high school for our teams. And that has actually been, and some of these guys ended up being so big, as in larger than life. You bring in a cabinet secretary who, like for example, EKURU runs a party, he wins an election. Somebody, let me say, Bitok sits in this particular office, and he says, now, because you've run for office, you are not a professional. This is a PhD, right? This is a man who's done his work. We know he's properly a professional. But somehow there is this funny definition in this country that so long as you run for office, now you are a politician and not a professional. How would Daktari here, for example, all of a sudden now forget that he is a legal profession of actually of very high standing? And just because he's run for office, once he wins it, now we declare him
a politician,
non-professional. And we also forget that even politicians are professionals in themselves.
Yeah, there are many. There are many.
Even the politics itself is a profession. It's just in this country where we've bastardized the profession. But politics in and of itself is a very serious profession. So I think that there is a missing political link when it comes to how the executive is dealing with the people and how it's engaging with the parliament. And I think we will argue and say that probably during induction and training, cabinet secretaries should be trained or rather should be inducted and be made to actually have this interface where they can actually deal with the people, because you are not going to run away with doing things politically. But there is so much. I think that's why, for example, he brought in a lot of people who've run for office before. Some of them who are sitting members of parliament, and brought them into the cabinet. They still need, for me, I feel that when these guys sat down and came up with the constitution, of course, they had austerity in their mind. They didn't look at the practice of politics, as it were. A lot of times, cabinet secretaries are far removed from how things are supposed to be done. That's why you would actually find PSS responding to things, and all of us sit here and we are so afraid. Like, how did he end up being a PS? But he answered all the right questions when he came for the interview, for example. He was vetted. You know, before you come up, you are shortlisted, you've already been vetted by the different tools we put in place. DCI, EACC, Council for University Education. As in, all those are tools towards your vetting. So when you come here, the team that is looking at you is just looking at a score sheet that has already been predetermined. That checklist that we put into place is a very weak tool in itself, but that's what we are using. That we diluted Chapter 6 to just a checklist. Do you have a self-declaration from EACC? Do you have from EACC, from the police clearance certificate? A lot of small things here and there. In and of themselves, by the way, are not representative of what Chapter 6 was about. But apparently, that is what the people we allowed to go to Parliament came up with. So I still feel that we need the CAS position. But I contend that William must actually allow the process to actually logically come to fruition. Because the court have not stopped him.
But Arnold, with all due respect, tell me, I mean, let's talk about this more practically. Pick an example of a ministry, for example, and walk us through your logic. Because I still believe, if I have to give this example, if your company is doing badly, that's why we have got laws of redundancy. You have got budget cuts. You have to rethink strategy. You know, so let's consider. Look at Kenya as a company that's not doing well. It's not profitable anymore. Do you keep on employing one? The practical reality in Kenya today is that a lot of our money goes to recurrent expenditure, basically paying people. So just pick a ministry as an example and tell us where are the gaps and why we need a CAS. Because remember, in the old constitution, we had a minister, assistant minister, and what we call a permanent secretary at that time. When we went to the Kenyans themselves, when we were soliciting views on the new constitution 2010, they actually did not see the need for an assistant minister. It was actually a battle between the minister and listen, if you look at the philosophy behind the cabinet in this new constitution, the cabinet secretary ought to be a technocrat. Actually, the proposal that remove politics from the running of government. let the president be that politician. Because see, at the end of the day, why do we have a ministry, Arnold? It's for service delivery. Today, we have a department called Disaster Management and Preparedness.
NDMA.
In the office of the president.
Yeah.
If you look at the kind of disaster that people are going through right now, I'm shocked for the first time probably I'm realizing that even people from central Kenya actually yearning for relief food.
What?
Yeah, the support, yes. In the parts of central Kenya that are actually dry. So I think I want us to be very fair.
I just wanted to talk about why I feel I served, of course, an elected official then at the National Youth Council, representing Nairobi region at the National Youth Council, and Uhuru and Ruto's first term. And let's say that was the first time, and probably we were trying to learn things here and there. But there's still a missing link, because NDMA, for example, if you went to their website, you will be surprised. Let's just talk about that. You'll be surprised. There is enough early warning. They've done that monthly. There is a report. So what we are facing today and what the media is acting like they are getting surprised today, if you go to the NDMA website, they spoke about it 3 months ago. As in, all of us saw this coming. So what wasn't there? Either political goodwill or simply a government, or let's just say that the country was all immersed into politics. But the truth is that there were people in office. That particular office has been reduced to simply doing early warnings and reports, and that's what they put on their website. People who are supposed to do that job, there's the level of resources, and then, of course, the executive end. There is nothing that is getting us by surprise. It is not. Even the hunger that we're talking about, the drought on the other side. If you go to that website, you will be surprised. It was done long time ago.
That I agree. What I'm saying is, I agree with that.
Yeah.
The problem in Kenya is about service delivery. Yes, with the early warning, so what? Yes, we know that. In fact, we don't even need a report from them. We know almost every 5 years.
There's going to be a cycle.
So over a period of time, there's a pattern.
But still, they warn us. We know. They warn us, but we still do not act.
No, but who is to act? Because you see, are you expecting, for example, the nomadic person from northern Kenya to do what? That's why I'm saying let's give meaning to these ministries. Yeah? What these ministries ought to provide services, yeah, to the people. And that's why I'm saying, let's go back to the question of CAS. Because in my honest opinion, and I'm being practical here, as a country, and you know very well, Maliba, that Kenya has such a high percentage of unemployment. And those people who will get into those government, because that's part of the executive. That's actually an attempt to amend the constitution through the back door, because it's expanding the executive actually. Because that's cabinet. And you see, for you to change the constitution of Kenya, you must go to the, especially structure of government, structure of executive, and among many others, you actually must go to the people in a referendum. But all I'm saying is fair enough. I don't think as a country we have reached such stage that we need this particular office. The question is to serve what purpose? Because even right now as we speak, there is really, in my view, there's really no gap. In a typical ministry, you have director of this, director of that. Now with the say a principal secretary, I think we should be able to zero in. And in any case, we are struggling as a country on the expenditure of running government. That's a fact.
Daktari,
so for me, I would not create another.
Daktari, for me, I know you're looking at it from a point of austerity, but I'm looking at it from the functionality. And I still insist that from my experience, I actually know that there is a missing political interface in the way we've been running government for the last about 10 years. Practically, I will tell you, for example, young people, for example, sat down, Uhuru told young people in 2013 that if we do not go to a rerun, we will give you the 6 billion that should have gone to a re-election or a rerun and give it to you. We will actually enhance the youth fund. Do you know what happened? Somebody came in and with very good and academic thinking and said, no, youth fund can wait. We will create something else. Along the way, I can tell you it's so difficult to quantify what Uwezo Fund has done. But then politicians have been practical. I disagree, for example, that MPs should not be having any control on the national government CDF. But all of us know the functionality of CDF and what it has done. As in, you can point and actually tell what it's worked out. So, whereas I actually say it should be taken away from members of parliament because I ran for office and I know that is how so many of them won elections. For the first time, we have got a lot of returnees, unlike it's been in the past. And there is only one way you can actually point out that. It's just because it's CDF, nothing else. So we've got a lot of CDF managers masquerading as members of parliament, abandoning the whole and the holy function and platform that is being a legislator. So, this is the point. I still feel that there is a missing political interface. When I saw the job description...
What is that political interface? Define for us that political interface.
The missing.
What is that missing?
That particular bit where you know... politics. Literally, there's that link in speaking. That is why, for example, some of us will go to the ground, speak the problems as they were. Mpaka tunaanzia where the problem is, we build data, come up with the indicators, come up with a program, complete with how we will actually monitor, right? But somebody else is actually going to speak that problem in a very simple way. So there is a missing interface. And that interface, I think, like he said, CSS should be technocrats.
No, but we have PSs that are technocrats.
As initially, the architecture presumed that we will actually have these guys who are quote unquote supposed to be professionals. That was the word. Then now we have got
for CSS.
Then we both the CS and the PS.
No, Arnold,
Yeah.
What you're trying to do, you're actually trying to justify the bad political practice of the last 10 plus years when Uhuru took over, government, and just after the new constitution was promulgated 2 years later. You see, if we read the chapter on executive, that must be chapter 8 or chapter 9, if I'm not wrong, on the executive. We're very Kenyans were very categorical. We don't want politics in the running of government. We want service delivery and we want people who are in the know. It is even contained in the report of the committee of experts. The final report that Kenyans wanted politics to be dealing. That's why they said we don't want ministers as members of parliament. But see, previous administration defied that, especially starting with President Uhuru Kenyatta. He brought in politics. Now we are normalizing it against a constitution that is very clear about that. And by the way, I don't see the problem. Why can't we have non-politicians running government? You see, there is no shortage of technocrats, Arnold, in any ministry. If we were to focus on the spirit and the letter of the Constitution of Kenya, it is possible to nominate a technocrat as a cabinet secretary and a PS as a PS also as a technocrat, and of course all the other directors. You don't need politics. It's about service delivery to the people, not about political depiction or political persuasion. Because what we are normalizing now is political rewarding. Again, it's the spirit and letter of the Constitution. I would say Kenya is not short of people who can actually serve. And in fact, that takes me to the cabinet of President William Ruto. There's nothing wrong. People are trying to justify saying that, as a cabinet secretary, you don't need necessarily to be an expert in that field. But there is also nothing wrong with picking an expert in that field. Why do we go to school, BTalk? Why do I go to school and study law? If today you tell me become an agriculture CS, I will say no, flatly no. There are many other ministries I can fit in.
There's also laws of agriculture.
Yes, but that's from a legal perspective. But I can easily fit in, for example, in a devolution ministry, Ministry of Constitutional Affairs, say Foreign Affairs, Regional Affairs, and maybe Attorney General's Office, Solicitor General. There are many. So, for example, for one particular profession, there are various ministries where I can actually invoke my intellectual acumen and speak confidently or even eloquently about a policy decision from an informed point of view. Most of these people, and I think earlier on before the show started, Maloba said, and I think even Maliba, that some of them watafanyiwa tu kazi. Watakuwa tunakaa pale kama majority of them. Maybe only 5. maybe only 5 or
exposing
yeah, but majority of them.
But you see,
I don't let Maliba.
But there's an argument, Maliba, even before we get to it. Okay, in 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto came. Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto came out in red ties and white shirts, and they lined up a cabinet for us. And they say that they are professionals, not politicians. Then would we say that there was a better service delivery then? Matiang'i was not a politician. Has he delivered better? Musheru was not a politician. Has he delivered better?
Would you say Matiang'i has delivered?
He was not a politician.
Probably we need to actually define who is a politician.
You see, I mean, like you said earlier, and you are right. We are actually, like for me, now, if I get elected, people cease to see me as a lawyer, and all the work that I have done. Mm-hmm. And that they also cease to see that I can actually use my legal training to impact certain changes. Yes, I disagree with people when they try to demonize politics or politicians. You see, you can only demonize a politician when he fails to perform or he fails in his political promises. Mm-hmm. I've said it before in this show, Bitok, and other fora. Mm-hmm. Politics, for me, my definition of politics is the totality of everything. Yeah? For me, it's the totality of everything. Mm-hmm. You have got sound economic policies, sound social policies, security policies, health policies. That is, for me, is what politics. So I'm looking for somebody who will govern this country from that perspective, where they want to assure Kenyans you have got your health care is assured. I'm putting right political decisions. Yeah. For example, let's go back to say COVID-19, 2020-2021. It was a bad political decision to say that NHIF will not apply in hospitals. It was a bad political decision. Somebody sat on their political, decision to say that I cannot use my medical insurance when I fall sick because of COVID in a hospital. Why is it called medical insurance? Mm-hmm. So me, if I look at all the totality of all that for me is what politics. And politics can be good if it serves the people right. Yeah.
See, well, I just wanted to go back to this CAS argument. I'm just looking. I've taken time to go back and look at the responsibilities and duties, and realistically, of cabinet administrator, chief administrative secretary. Yeah. So, as in you look at it, and it still goes back to that political interface. And fair enough, when we talk about public policy, of course, depending on what you're doing, you will talk about 5 to 7 steps. But normally we just reduce it to 3 if you really want to move away. That you're talking about public policy, there are 3 things. There is a problem, then there is the politics around a problem, and then there is a program to solve that particular problem. So we call that the 3 Ps of policy. So the problem, politics, and the program. So we actually are coming up with a CAS position, and I think this is, for me, from where actually I've looked at this, and some of these complaints we've done in the past. You look at all that, and it's like we are having somebody to play the politics while the CS and the PS actually deliver. Both intra and interministerial politics, and even at the phase where you are going out to deal with the people, and you're also dealing with the cabinet and other actors within government. So there are these gaps. This particular constitution was quite strict. It looked at the austerity. It tried to actually ensure that everything else, we don't need much more than necessary. But then over time, things evolve. When you look at Eliud, the marathoner, he doesn't add even an extra ounce of flesh he doesn't need. But you see, that is Eliud running for a marathon. So you look at government the way it is, and for the last 10 years, honestly, there are lessons that have been learned, especially by those who've been inside. And I still believe that whereas whoever might get it might not be the right people, they are allocating. Just, you see, you could actually say that we're going to reward people, but is that different with the way we actually have worked with the cabinet? Has it worked out properly? When the list of PSS, for example, comes out today or any other day, will the claim not be the same? It will still be the same. That does not then say that there is no need for a PS just because you've given a PS to somebody who worked for for the system during the elections, or we've given these particular cabinet slots, the CS positions, to people who worked with William. William is a politician. He wants to win an election. He must also look at the future, even as he tries to settle the present. So it's a delicate balance, but he has to get it. For me, I still believe the CAS position is important. The only problem I have with the way we are going about it is that we are ignoring court orders that are valid. So when we bring back Miguna and we say that we want to break from the past, why are we beginning our own fresh bout of then breaking or rather ignoring court orders? So can we wait until we go through? Because they have fairly followed the process from the advisory given by the court initially, that the process was not followed when Uhuru actually did that. So he went into public participation. Somebody is asking questions by way of court. You can always, and our courts are actually very liberal and quite robust. They listen to government. If they make a real case, they'll be allowed to go on with this. But we cannot move on and say, like, this is what the court has said. And then PSC goes ahead and says that we are making a clarification. How do you make a clarification on a court order? As in...
Arnold, on this issue, to be honest, I still hold the view, and I hope we can put a vote to all the tacklers and Kenyans. Because, first of all, there was no public participation. These people tried to circumvent the court. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, initially, when the court ordered that, CAS position is unconstitutional, yes, they were right. The court was right. Because the process of creating this office in the public service was not followed. And that process is actually prescribed in Article 132 of the Constitution, powers of the presidents. And by the way, it is discretionary. If you read, I mean, maybe we should actually read that article so that Kenyans can appreciate. If you read that Article 132, it is actually discretionary. That is chapter 9, the executive. Again, you see, in law, when a matter is discretionary, it calls on you to apply some wisdom. If it's discretionary, it calls for you to actually balance. And this is what it says. The president the president may, that's Article 4. The president may perform any other executive function provided for in this constitution or in national legislation, and except as otherwise provided for in this constitution, may establish an office in the public service in accordance with the recommendation of the Public Service Commission. You see, the word may was there intentionally, was deliberately put there, so that you as a decision maker, you have to balance you have to take into account certain parameters. For example, now what I'm bringing on board is that economically, already Kenyans are saying that the cost of running this constitution is too much for us. We are bearing too much burden. The auditor reports have demonstrated that a lot of the money is not going into development, rather it's going into recurrent expenditure. Meaning people are denied services, health, education, security, and all that. So if we create more offices, and I want Kenyans to even do top of their head. When we did Punguza Mizigo, we quantified the cost, for example, of running our parliament today. I think it's now close to at about 40 billion, if I'm not wrong. So that you can imagine, and this is the parallel I want Kenyans to draw from. We have got 416 representatives, both elected and nominated, for both houses. These 416 individuals, they gobble from your taxpayers' money about 40 billion Kenya shillings annually.
40 billion.
40 billion. I think last time it was about 37.5 billion. I think right now it's probably high. Compare that with about 5 million residents of Nairobi County, who get allocated about 13 billion, if I'm not wrong, which is expected to be money for their development, to ensure there is water, there's electricity, there's schools run and all that. Now, comparatively, 5 million people are given 13 billion. 416 people take home about 40 billion. Now, I want to use Arnold's analogy of a cow. I mean, not of a cow, but of Eliud, the marathoner. For Eliud has won many, many world records. as thin as he is, he does not need extra flesh to win another marathon. He does not need to hard. Now let's flip that. Kenya, in my view, is like a cow infested with, ticks and all manner of, diseases. Do you keep on milking that cow, or you want to take that cow to the cattle dip, or to the veterinary doctor? That, for me, I think is the analogy we need to see Kenya from, because there is unemployment. We are struggling with a national debt of about 9 trillion now, if not 11 trillion, like some people are saying. We are struggling with issues to do with security, food insecurity, drought and all that. Now, do we need to expand government as it is? And let me go back to a practical example. We all know this is not rocket science. Arnold has rightfully said that William Ruto is a politician. Fair enough, he's a politician. But he does not need to look at his political trajectory from the perspective of only people who supported him. Because the people who supported him, compared to a majority of Kenyans, they are a minority. Yes, you can reward. You need to have people who believe in your vision, who will help you in your vision. But let's not use government appointments as a reward system. Because yes, he can reward his team. We also know that not all of his team members, including those who supported him, actually made it to the cabinet, and not all will make it to the. So my proposal, Arnold, is this. Let's not go by the word of the issue of reward by creating this position, because then Ruto will have to deal with, how do I reward the 7.2 million Kenyans who voted for him? Secondly, how will he reward about 50 million Kenyans who look up to him as the president of the Republic of Kenya and expect services from the government? So I think for me, going by way of the reward, unless we really say there is a missing link, and you see, like the Constitution says, let's balance issues. Do we really need it, or do we not need it? In fact, I don't know where the consultations took place.
Lecturer, let me ask this. Talking about reward. Can we also talk about real politics here?
Yeah.
This thing called real politics. You see, we cannot, I've even looked at how the US does its stuff. And even ambassadors are practicing politicians at home. They contribute in campaigns, they can campaign and take positions. The same cannot be said of us. What I do not get is that Daktari here runs a party, is a party leader, goes to battle, because that's what a campaign is, goes to battle, wins an election, and somebody somewhere is seated probably in Safaricom in a corner office, and then Daktari says, okay, now I have won, now come and save me from myself. Honestly, that doesn't make sense. That's not how politics actually even functions in the first place. So I do not want to even talk about the reward system. That's why for me, I would rather stick on the functionality bit of it, because why would we expect William to win an election, go all out,
but Arnold,
fight all whatever he has fought?
You're not helping us.
Yeah.
I've asked you before.
Yeah.
Pick a ministry and tell us, in this ministry, these are the dysfunctions, these are the disabilities in this ministry that can be filled by a CAS position.
I actually demonstrated that, number one, see how CSS, for example, used to go to parliament. Look at those kind of interactions. You have seen members of parliament, for example, saying that they have gone out and queued outside the CS, and some of them are not able to meet them and everything else. And that's why I'm actually still insisting that it is the interface to play politics. That is because we cannot divorce politics from development, as in that is an impossibility. Because politics in itself, like Daktari said, is actually is the complete whole. It's everything. So, but then we must actually have some specialists, people who specifically do that. You see how DOs and DCs and PCs were quite good in the business they used to do. Because we used to train these people. They were technocrats who were also playing politics, and they did it quite well. Of course, we didn't like it, and the provincial administration became too powerful. So my position is that we still need the PS, the CA, the CAS position, for obvious reasons, that honestly, our CAs come most times, and the architecture does not allow them to actually come off the way we really are used to. Why are we still calling them ministers, even though we wanted to move away and call them secretaries? We didn't want that. So, be that as it may, I cannot fault the president, for example, for rewarding his friends. After all, he went with them to hunt. We do not expect him to bring the hunt home and then go and get somebody that now I am the specialist in butchering. After I have brought the animal
But
from
he
the
just
forest.
supported Sakaja.
And I said, no, but Sakaja, what is he doing? Because he realized somebody else went to
He's
hunt.
not rewarding the people that he hunted with.
He knows his government is not just the executive. His government also has got an assembly. That assembly, he's not fully in control. Somebody else out-hunted him on that particular end. So he is balancing in out. He ensures that in the assembly, he doesn't lose out. And also ensures that wherever he's come from, he's covered. So otherwise, we will be having another Mwangaza in Nairobi here, running around, and Sakaja running around like Morife. So,
See, Arnold,
Let's go to Mwangaza.
That does not make it right. Because you see today, what MCAs are actually doing, they are holding governors hostage. Okay? And that fear on governors, if everybody did their job, functionally, like you say, I mean, rightfully and to serve the people of Kenya, then we don't need to right wrongs. Because what you're trying to do here is to right a wrong. That because I don't like Bitok, I will hold you at ransom. I will make sure that you don't perform your functions well because I wield this kind of power. I think let's talk about also honesty in politics.
Yeah.
It's not just about doing politics because you want to survive. You want to be re-elected. Let's also be honest. You are given this office, even as an MCA, represent the ward that sent you to the county assembly. Not to go there and threaten the governor that, if you don't, do this, I'll impeach you. Like, honestly, let's go to Mwangaza.
Let's talk about Mwangaza.
Let's talk about Mwangaza. You see, and I'll draw parallels here. You see, the first gentleman of Meru is tagging along his wife. Yeah? And he's offering support, in whatever form. Mama Rachel Ruto is always tagging along the husband. Pastor Gashagwa, Dorcas, is also tagging along the husband. Kenyans are not making noise, are not saying, look at Margaret Wambui Kenyatta, former first lady. Even when the president is receiving a present, she's there. Standing, So what is wrong with this first gentleman of Meru supporting the wife?
But he's chairing cabinet meetings, Azu.
No, he's not chairing cabinet meetings. I don't think so. I think that's
the truth is that man has not chaired.
If he's chairing a cabinet meeting,
Are you the right convening the
no. But let's also not exaggerate this. Is he actually chairing a cabinet?
No, but he has been cited in cabinet meetings, seated there.
No, of course that's wrong.
Yeah, so
That's
with
wrong.
a guitar.
That I agree. I think what he needs to do, he needs to pick a function. Yeah, maybe
He has been the patron of us last. He said he's the patron.
he's actually the co-governor. If you see, because as much as you've mentioned Rachel and Dorcas, you forget that they avoid commenting on some level. There is a level of comments they don't make on public policy and in politics. They've picked a specific route, and
But Dorcas the other day was even flagging food alongside her.
That is ceremonial.
But it was
That is
good.
ceremonial.
But I'm sure if Mr. Mwangaza did that in Meru,
Is he called Mr. Mwangaza?
guitar man.
It is the wife who is Mwangaza, I think.
What is his
You see, but of course,
Okay, what is his name actually?
Murichu.
It's called Moricho. Morega.
That goes back to my argument. I've always argued that sometimes.
When I let the man support the wife.
When we hate on
He was reading the Rights Act contractors.
Okay,
when we hate on that guy, we actually are also perpetrating patriarchy. Patriarchy is such that men are not supposed to support their wives, but wives are supposed to support their men. So here is a man who supported
he
supported the wife even during the campaign. Moved around with the addressed rallies, played his guitar
actually
with the wife.
played entertain people for free. He never even asked for
But then he should have been at the end of entertainment, for instance.
No, but then now, if you actually brought him in, ESC will write to you immediately. I also think
They've already written.
we need to find ways. I don't know what Mwangaza was doing in Mombasa when Kivuta Kibwana and the others were trying to help them. They had some level of what I would call quote-unquote induction. But statecraft, as in, you cannot come in with that is why Sonko failed in Nairobi. Sonko came in with this mentality. He was not the governor. He had come to fight corruption. So he would rather not deliver on what he was elected for, but come off as an anti-corruption crusader. So what then will EACC do? In the process, he ends up breaking the laws. Because, by the way, in government, this pen here could be 10 shillings at your local shop. But if you decide to buy this pen without following the procurement law, and you buy it for 10 shillings and you tell government that I have saved government this money, we will still jail you. As in, government will rather buy this pen for 100 shillings, even if you're going to buy it for 5 shillings. As in, why didn't you follow process? Because systems are in place for a certain reason. So, Mwangaza also needs to understand that when MCAs are asking, for example, for the car grant, it is in law, whether you like it or not. Don't go out and then start inciting the people against them. It is in law. It might be a bad law, but you don't force yourself. You know, when you become president,
Is it
for example...
really in law? Which law?
Yeah, it is.
Which law?
Uhuru granted it and...
No, it's not in law.
They passed it.
Uhuru was using it as a bribe for BBI.
Unfortunately, it was anchored in some level of law I just need to check out. And other counties have actually started effecting it.
I must confess, I don't...
Yeah, this is Sharia wiki. We must quote law.
Yeah?
If we mention law, we must
I'm
quote.
just telling you that other counties are already doing it. So when MCAs actually are coming to ask for it, you know, for example, I am a practicing Christian. I might not like some elements in the Constitution 2010, right? So when I actually get to office, I cannot force my beliefs and convictions onto other people. So long as it's in law, I let other people do that. Like Chinua Achebe says, let the ego patch and the hawk patch. Whatever tells the other one not to patch, let its wing break. And that's what we are seeing. Mwangaza's wing is actually breaking because he's the only one who wants to patch. So she should also know that when these people ask, for example, for a ward fund,
Everyone wants to arrive.
everybody wants to arrive. They won. They promised people on the ground. If you see what is happening in Meru, it's just a battle of egos. As in, what waache kiburi? As in, I'm the governor, I was elected by the people, and the other people are also telling you, we are the MCAs, we were elected by the people, and we can impeach you.
But a friend of mine was also telling me there is a patriarchal problem in Meru. That, you know, Meru people are not used to a woman
Being a governor.
not even being a governor.
But they voted
Being
for
in
her.
charge of, is a cultural, customary thing.
So the man can't allow her.
Maybe that's why Mwangaza
Mr. Mwangaza
maybe that's why he's hanging around.
He doesn't believe that she will do everything right, even when she won the vote.
I remember also yesterday.
So many people are shocked. How did this happen?
Yesterday, you're also having a conversation on the same with PS, ICT. That is, PS should be actually communication. That is where Musheru is, PS. And you're having the same discussion. And they were saying that someone was saying that, of course, women are saying women leaders are being targeted. There's an umbrella judgment on human leadership. But men are saying you need to get to a point where even when a woman is elected to leadership, they also need to vet the husband. Because you can vet the wife, but the husband is a big problem. For instance, which law holds Mr. Mwangaza accountable? Which law? Which part of law?
If he takes any
oversteps,
public office, for example,
if oversteps,
he will still be, as if he's actually been made a patron to a few other things. So therefore, he's a public officer, whether you like it, whether you call it quasi or anything else. If he takes up that particular role, he must also act according to the Constitution. He can't act over and above that. But the problem here is just a matter of egos. Also, I think Mwangaza's win was a shock. People have not actually come off from the elections. That is actually, those are echoes of the campaigns in Meru. Because, Kiraitu was number 3, not even number 2. You know, how do you bring Kingangi to number 3?
Who was number 2?
Linturi.
Linturi.
As in, naturally, there's a way Meru, a friend of mine was telling me that the Meru people had come off as very professional and they were doing their things so well. Now, finally, we've realized they're also Kenyans like the rest of us. At least it's not just other counties.
Misdemeanor.
Yes, at least it's not just like other counties that have got their own drama. So you have got Mwangaza coming first, Linturi coming second. That was not what you would expect of Meru even before. And then now, Kingangi the crocodile comes number 3. As in, there's still a shock. People in Meru, as in the king of Meru, was not even number 2. He was number 3.
Kingangi.
So,
It was the crocodile.
the crocodile himself.
I think if you want to claim to be a king of a community, go into politics. That's in kingship.
But there's something that Dr. EKURU has brought out, and it's about the MCAs. Is there a chance and an opportunity for MCAs to abuse their power? Because they can say, we just don't like you. You elected Governor EKURU, and they say, EKURU, damu yetu na yako haijasikizana, and we need to beat you. I mean, is there a chance that also the MCAs could be abusing their power?
It's true. I think I can say that as a country, we are one corrupt house. And everybody, like people have said, everybody is just lacks the opportunity to steal. What I found out when we were doing Punguza Mzigo is we were going around to the county assemblies, and we went to about 29 of them. I found out that there was really a gap in terms of service delivery in the county. Yes, counties receive billions of Kenya shillings, but they only end up at the county headquarters. Or a trickle of it will go to a ward where the MCA and the governor are in good talking terms or are from one political party. And that's why we were proposing the Ward Development Fund to come as a conditional grant in each and every ward. So that the MCAs don't have to go and beg at the doorsteps of the governor, or they don't have to suck up to the governor to give it for their ward to see certain services. Now, that has actually given birth to belligerence and actually an abuse of the power of the MCAs. So, because there's no good working relationship that targets service delivery at each and every part of the counties, let's say the ward, so MCAs will gang up and say, this governor is being kichongumu. This is not his money or our money. So we'll impeach him. So when a governor, by the way, I think it was in Chinua Achebe says that when an old woman,
when you complain of dry bones, when you talk about
dry bones. So now the dry bones for most governors is the word impeachment.
Yes.
If they hear the word impeachment,
they get uncomfortable.
they start diarrheaing all of a sudden. So, but that I think impeachment is being abused. Impeachment is being abused by MCAs. And why? It's because of this poor relationship between, for example, MCAs and governors. But also, there's also a problem between the governors and the national government. So you see some governors, for example, will not say respect, say, the executive or the president because they are not from the same political party. The Constitution is very clear. If you look at Article 6, I think, of the Constitution, and since we are talking about Sheria wiki hii, wacha tusomea wa Kenya hiyo article of the Constitution, what it says. You see, the Constitution at Article 6 reads as follows, Bitok. It's called, the title is Devolution and Access to Services. Okay? It says the territory of Kenya, that's one, is of course into the counties specified in the first schedule. That is the 47 of them. Then the sixth sub-article 2 says the government at the national and county levels are distinct, and interdependent, and shall, is mandatory, shall conduct their mutual relations on the basis of consultation and cooperation. Now, that cooperation is not there. Effective cooperation, you don't see it between the county governments and the national government, even though they are distinct. And the Constitution compels them to actually cooperate with each other and consult with each other. But Sub-Article 3 is even the most critical one. It says, a national state organ shall ensure reasonable access to its services in all parts of the Republic of Kenya, so far as it is appropriate to do so, having regard to the nature of the particular service. Okay? So this is the problem I also see with the MCAs. When the county government decides to hold and keep the resources at the county level, or as a governor, but does not want to devolve those services and that resource to each and every ward. That's why MCAs gang up and say, no, this governor must go. That's why they talk of impeachment. But in Meru, I don't know what really are the reasons. It's just because Baichu.
There are two reasons, actually. Number one, the MCAs actually ask for the Ward Development Fund, at least the allowable one. There is a structure out of what CRA had warned. There is an allowable way of actually how it works out. she wasn't very amenable to that. And of course, they feel the way she's actually running the affairs, there's no respect between the assembly and her office. She's running over their shoulders and everything else. So they have got issues, but those are not issues of constitutional threshold. So they can go to the Senate. They will still go back to Meru with her.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. So they would rather mend their ways wakubali tu until she steals, until she offends the constitution. It's too early. Because having her sister, you know, for example, the law allows MCAs to have partisan staff.
Yeah.
At least 3 partisan staff. The ones you choose the way you want. Same way with the MPs. They also have got their own partisan staff. And they've got about $1 million shillings to that effect. They refused the other day to be dictated how they pay those staff. So it's those small issues, the teething problems around starting off. As in, we want a ward development fund. We want our cars. And she feels like, no, you cannot be dictating to me, I am the governor. Forgetting that the governor is also has got a level of interdependence to the county assembly.
All right, okay. Finally, and as Kamabura saying, as anyone listen to the tone of Governor Kawira, needs a short course on effective communication in leadership. Maybe the MCS are saying, we don't like the way you're we don't like your voice, we don't like your tone. All right, finally, on DCI, extrajudicial killing and the bad disbandment of SSU. I don't know what you guys make of this, because there are very gory stories that are coming from this and very scary narratives. I don't know, what do you guys make of this? Because you have a court case coming up. Daktari, with these DCI issues and disappearance of Kenyans, killing of Kenyans, and the other scary things that are coming up from this.
Maybe we start from the Sharif, Pakistani. Yes. I think, let's not, I know this matter is in court, but the truth for the matter is the guy was assassinated. It was clear assassination. There's no two way. We can sugarcoat it and say, oh, it was mistaken identity. How do you fire 19 bullets, 19, on just one person? Whether it was Kenyans
for skipping a roadblock.
We are not even sure whether they actually.
No, I'm just saying, even if it were.
Do you really fire 19 bullets just for person? You can radio the next roadblock and tell them there is this motor vehicle.
You can do a chase.
You can even do a chase if you so wish. But seriously, I don't even want to believe on that. The man was assassinated. We don't know for what reasons. What is now emerging is that he had escaped Pakistan into Dubai, and the Dubai government told him that I'm sorry, that you cannot stay any longer because we are a friendly country to Pakistan. I'm told some of the consideration they took into account was the fact that there are so many Pakistanis who are providing labor in Dubai. So the guy came to Kenya. He came to Kenya. I think he had a 3-year visa, a 3-month visa. I think it kind of expired, and I think he was having problems renewing it because basically I think the guy was on the run. We understand that his brother has a shooting range, Uko Kajiado. That's where they had come from. So, but those are all stories. All said and done, we really hope that DCI will uncover this situation. On the disappearances of Kenyans, I don't think it's a new phenomenon. It's been there for a long time. I think what has been lacking is just the accountability on it. I can see now the police commission is coming out to sort of boldly speak, even attempting to condemn. This, in my view, are some of the commissions that we don't really need in this country because they have really failed the test of time. And we can now say with some certainty that we have tested some of these commissions, some of these organs, including, and we hope that this change of administration now, is not just some musical chairs. It is also said that the current boss at DCI had actually been, somewhat expelled during Muhoro's time for non-performance or something like that. So I don't know. We really hope that there will be some results.
Okay.
Maliba, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, starting with Arshad Sharif, just a quick one. There a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter was reported stolen. At the time of reporting, it had a quote-unquote a child in it. But when it shows up in Kajiado, it has somehow morphed into a V8. A Land Cruiser V8.
With different number plates.
very different number plates. One was with 700F, another one with the 200M, even if it was those zeros that were mixing up anyone. The F and the M are not even any close. There's something we call a confirmation bias, that you're expecting a certain outcome, so even if something comes looking closer to that, you can give it a tick. Something to that doesn't even make sense. Of course, the child that was in the car initially, that was reported to be in the car, it turned out to be a 26-year-old guy, not a child as it had been reported. Then, of course, all of us know how an OB is done. The OB, when it was done, it said it had been an unfortunate accident. There was a car reported to have been stolen. There was a roadblock that had been mounted, and then therefore when this car came and skipped the roadblock, they wanted to immobilize it. But then you also realize that the OB has been changed. The story has changed to say that somebody in that car fired at the police officers. You know, if you're going to make the initial report, you remember everything, especially co-information, right? So when you have got co-information, how do you forget a very important detail like somebody fired at the officers? The initial report did not have that. Now, later on, they revised their stories. Go at the police station and try to revise your OB and see how difficult it is. It's not easy. So, from whatever way you look at it, and then somehow, out of all those bullets, there was a bullet that just targeted the head. If you looked at the picture, it's quite gory. That is a first shot kill. And it was one where he was not supposed. That, no wonder, initially the reports were that he had been killed by snipers. So,
But it's a sniper, doesn't it?
That's a sniper.
yeah. So looking
Usiku bwana, usiku unapima mtu mmoja kisogo.
kichwa na ilifungua.
Technology.
Yeah, so they've got scopes and everything else. So looking at that, for me, I actually see one thing. That even as Islamabad sends, I saw they had done a task statement that they were sending people here. I actually think that is the cover-up team. It's just coming to cover up. They are going to accept that shooting story
the
and everything else, and that story will actually be closed. Because after all, dead men don't tell tales. Don't we say that? Generally, we have had these units where, you know, there's this lazy governance, where if you have got a problem, the best way for you to deal with the problem is to kill someone. We have got jails. Why are we killing people and people surfacing up in rivers in the name that they were difficult people?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of jokes, you know, you cannot secure a country that lazily. Because, you know, the problem with killing people is that then crime becomes ideological. People then, for us, if we get into crime, then we will actually have to form an ideology around it to protect ourselves. And it ceases to be crime for what it is. So you keep killing people, then people will morph up into other things. Then they start fighting back and striking back. We have not necessarily made a lot of progress by simply killing people. And we know that it has been abused. So what do I need to do? I'll take you back to Sharif's case. That the best way for you to actually, for me to have you killed, I know the number plate of your car, is for me to just say that a car has been stolen. No one does even a check, a background check, that you know how a van, a Mercedes Sprinter looks like. That somehow that looked like a Land Cruiser. In this country, even a bad TX cannot be stopped by police officers, leave alone being shot at. But here you have got a complete Land Cruiser VX being shot at so many times. You know, the jokes in this country.
It's apparent that the guy was being monitored, his movements were being monitored, and definitely there was a communication and the guy was just killed.
And they didn't even kill the driver.
No.
If I'm skipping a roadblock, even if I am angry, the person who's targeting the car, do I target the passenger or do I target the driver?
Of course.
Let's say that now, okay, you've skipped the roadblock that I was minding.
The offender is actually by law is not the passenger.
It's not the passenger.
It's the person driving that vehicle.
That is a thief.
That's the thief. That's the offender.
That's the offender.
But they say the thief has given you lift, so we kill you first.
No. You're not a complicit unless you prove
you could actually
conspiracy.
be. You could actually be a person who.
But you cannot stop. But you cannot stop. You cannot stop the car by shooting the passenger.
That's what I'm actually saying. If you're planning to stop a car, to stop a vehicle that is moving, Do you shoot the passenger? That passenger could actually have been hijacked.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to save that particular person who's been hijacked, why are you shooting that particular person? So this, whatever way you look at it,
Maybe you're shooting the owner of the car.
The owner of the vehicle who's been hijacked is the one you're shooting. No, that story doesn't add up. Kuna majitu story mingi sana.
Analyst Dr. EKURU AUKOT has a court case to attend to. So, unless there's anything, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd want to speak on, Arnold.
I think for me,
one of the things that drought, really, that drought is becoming messy. You've lost over 200 elephants. So yesterday,
you know, we didn't know that the drought was coming. The Meteorological Department, the NDMA, the National Disaster Management Authority, already had warned. Somehow, no one just acted. And you will be surprised, no one is actually going to be asked questions. There's not going to be any accountability on those people who were in the office during that particular time. Like, for example, can we ask anyone who should have done something in the last 90 days what they have done? The CSS who have just left office, what were they doing in the last 90 days? So it's a sad case that we have to keep on going back to these issues repeatedly when truth is that we should actually have acted. This is, drought is not like something that shows up from nowhere. It's been there. You go to the NDMA website, it's there. You go to the Meteorological Department, as in there was enough, or let me call sufficient early warning information. But we didn't just act on it. We were busy with, of course, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, and then we were busy with BBI. We just didn't think that this was important. Probably the government that is in place now needs to actually stop being reactionary. We actually need to have that culture where government is not reactionary, but actually proactive. Because with early warning, if we were proactive, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be reporting about 200 elephants lost. We wouldn't be talking about thousands of animals dead in the north. Those are livelihoods left out in places like Central for the first time, people going without food. No, we had early warning. The government of the day just slept on its work. Now we are left at a place. This should be the last time where we actually are coming out reactionary. We need to be proactive going forward because lives and property are what governments exist to protect. So we are here. No one takes care of our property. No one takes care of our lives. We are dumping guys in the rivers. We are allowing people's properties and their stock go to waste, die, and including even national resources like elephants and heritage.
All right, Aska Mebor she's asking, Jirabito, did we see Kipchumba Karori from your show in the swearing in? The chances that yes, the tackle has made very serious citizens. Kipchumba Karori could be your next legal advisor to the presidency and the cabinet. Ojwang, Dr. Ojwang has been shortlisted for PS. Hapa tunatengeneza watu. Daktari Ojwang amekuwa shortlisted for PS. Karori could be the next legal advisor to the president.
I think I suspected when I saw Ojwang going to welcome the fake general Miguna. I knew that he's aligning himself.
But Miguna is also jobless. And Miguna is also jobless.
But
he's landing at Kisumu today. I don't know what's going to happen.
You'll be welcome.
But Kipchumba is a fine legal mind. Yes. I also am proud of the people of my generation who actually are making it. It's important to actually tell them that they are the John the Baptist. Like in the Bible, John the Baptist is prepares the way for Christ.
Yes.
So even as I prepare to become the 6th president, Kipchumba must actually go there, get the requisite experience and knowledge to ensure that he serves as my age. Professor Ojwang, of course, is not of my generation, but he's been steadfast in Kenya Kwanza.
Ojwang is a young man. He's not a
Okay, he's a big young man.
Good legal mind.
Yeah, actually a very good legal mind, and I'm quite happy for him. He has actually been very steadfast in Kenya Kwanza. They should not leave him out because he's a dean just because he's been around here at the tackle. But the tackle is a good place. We come here, speak our mind.
Courtesy of the tackle.
No, even if the president does not give me a job, I will be the people's voice. As in that, I have never had a problem. I will be the people's president on this other side. Yeah, so no problem with that.
All right, Daktari, we were talking about drought.
drought.
And we lost elephants. We've lost 200, almost over 200 elephants. And I don't know. I mean, as a country, is it that we take things too lightly? Because nobody's even speaking about it.
To be honest with you, I mean, again, when I look at let's look at this from a broader perspective and the kind of political governments that we've had. Of course, they're all political. I think we have never really had in the history of Kenya a transformative government. To a large extent, there are certain things that governments in the past have done which are transformative. For example, if you look at the Moi regime, in terms of education, I think Moi really did very well in terms of education. That we really have to give it to him. If you come to Kibaki, the economy, at least there was a trickle-down effect. So that hata kama wadosi wanakula huko, at least kuna makombo ilikuwa inabaki, some things falling, and you could gather, if you had a large plate, you could gather some of those crumbs, and some of they can fill your stomach. Uhuru regime, in my view, has borrowed heavily. He attempted very much on the infrastructure, but I think also left a very big. I think for me, they are not well reasoned in terms of cost vis-a-vis the benefit that come with it. For example, if you just look at the Nairobi Expressway. It has transformed Nairobi. It's given Nairobi some facelift, but it's only 27 kilometers at a cost of 118 billion Kenyan shillings. You can imagine if you had spent that money, for example, just even doing the feederals or the rail transport, just enhance the railway, for example.
But in Nairobi, you just need 15 billion to have a light rail that is actually very functional. Yeah.
So coming to the question of drought, this is an issue that has never really been looked into very keenly by any government, and to try and use the resources that it has to be able to avert. For example, Kenya is not short of water. I have said it. If I was the president of this country today, there is no way Tana River or River Sabaki will drain into the ocean. The Indian Ocean does not need those waters. I will divert those waters to the north and produce food and make sure that there's water in this country. The only rivers I will probably allow to drain into is the rivers that drain into Lake Victoria, and Lake Turkana. But the ocean really does not need those freshwater rivers. When people of Kenya are actually dying because of thirst, you can see, because of this drought, people will tell you, for 4 days I've not drunk water. 4 days. Medically, you're supposed to drink about, 1.5 liters every day.
8 glasses is roughly around the same.
I think 1.5 liters every day. Now, when a person goes 4 days or even a week without water, or treks distances, lacks food, I think for me it's a problem. It's a problem that indicts government of any country, government of the day. We can run around it, but that's a sad reality in this country. It means you've not been able to plan. I mean, I know Arnold earlier on said that the warnings were there, but did we plan around the warnings as a government, as departments? What measures did we put in place to avert? In 1989, there was Kenya also experienced one of the worst droughts back in 89 or 88 thereabouts. And I remember the government of President Moi took a drastic action. They actually went around buying those cows before they could die because of the droughts and famine, and brought them to KMC at the river. Yes. And they even created an abattoir called Halal Meat. They sponsored a private citizen, to build an abattoir, a very modern abattoir, to be able to help at least to slaughter those cows before. That was a responsive government. So when you look at this issue of drought and famine, it talks about non-responsiveness of government. And that's why you now begin to question these departments and ministries of government. What really is their value addition to my life as a Kenyan?
There's none.
And I don't see any. I mean, if you're drought affected, like many millions of Kenyans are, you actually begin to even wonder, do we really even have a government? Relief is not a solution. It's not sustainable. For decades and decades we have had this relief. Relief is a business on its own, because the people who transport this food charge billions of Kenyan shillings to just get these foods to dying people. For me, it's bad business.
All right. I even saw Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu governor. His issue was, he had posted that he was giving out relief food in Kiambu. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see how sad that situation is. If the people of Kiambu, and we all know, we've been told that central Kenya is arable, the land is fertile, there's no lack of food. But if Kimani Wamatangi is distributing relief food in Kiambu, then there's a serious problem. Right. Now you can imagine the arid and semi-arid lands of this country.
In Turkana. Talking about fertility, Murang'a governor, Irungu Kang'ata, mesema ukionwa na mimba hivi unapigwa 6K. If you see the pregnancy within the county, you get 6,000 pap. So I was wondering, is it
there is shortage of human beings?
Per pregnancy or per month?
Become a commodity.
The short of humans.
It probably goes into their care. I'm not sure if.
But is it 6K per pregnancy or per month?
Oh, well, it's just 6K. I think it's for the pregnancy, which is little money actually. It's seeing that how many days can it cater for a kid? It wouldn't take very many days to cater.
But I don't think you get pregnant with the 6K from government in your mind.
But so what relief does it provide?
There should be better reasons.
There should be the relief should be sustainable in a way that it's something that makes sense. Otherwise, then again, we are opening avenues for siphoning government money. Also, we need to put government money to important stuff. There are children in schools who are malnutritioned. Those kids should have food, for example.
The other day in Garissa, I saw somebody post on Twitter, a boy fainted because of hunger. I see Ali Michael at Took Voices saying that, and he has posted a picture of how animals are actually dying because of this drought, and says, it breaks my heart that at 21st century, people are still starving. A failed democracy government. In northern Kenya, people are dying because of hunger. Drought has taken away their livestock, and that's true. You see, because that's their livelihood. Pastoralism is a livelihood. When drought takes away your animals, so you are left at the mercy of hunger. And people die. People are dying every day.
All right. Best of luck to the people of Kirinyaga as you want from your pregnancies. I hope that's going to...
It's Murang'a, not Kirinyaga.
It's Murang'a.
It's Murang'a.
Yeah. It's Murang'a. Irungu Kang'ata counts for Murang'a. I think so. Okay, kana mimba huko unapata 6K yako. I think Azimio never lost it at all. The 6,000 is finding its way back to the pockets of Kenyans. So we encourage governors as well to invent something for the men, because we are the ones who impregnate. we need compensation.
So is the reward to the person carrying the pregnancy or even to the participant?
No, the one carrying, because you cannot see. How can you prove that you participated?
But
you can see the pregnancy.
How do we prove it's yours?
Yeah. No. You can see the pregnancy, so you can be sure the pregnancy is yours.
So you can ask the lady who was responsible for this, so that the system can be shared.
It can be business. Today you can say it's EKURU, tomorrow you say it's Maliba. So it's bad business. So but at least you can be sure when you're carrying a pregnancy, it can only be yours. You cannot carry someone else's pregnancy. But I think the crisis, it speaks to a crisis actually that is behind it, and that is the issues of men in central Kenya and Kiambu, Kirinyaga, these counties. That men,
I still feel that particular design, even in design thinking, that way of designing programs, especially for provision of public goods, is a faulty one. That is a flawed way of actually thinking of. As in, the people have got much more problems than actually like taking care of their pregnancies, for example. Are hospitals in Murang'a functioning efficiently? Are they working well? That woman, you want to give that 6,000 shillings. Just ensure that she has got a free maternity, she can deliver freely, she is sure that on the day her kid goes to school and doesn't have food, the kid can have probably a bowl of porridge. So, those populist ways, and now we are calling them Kang'ata care, as in, we have got a problem of copying everything from the US, as in Obama care. Everybody else.
There was even Baba care.
As in,
Kang'ata care. But let me ask you, what was the rationale behind the 6,000?
I don't know.
To encourage people to give birth.
Because I understand in Central Kenya some of the schools are closing. But see, we can transfer. There are places in this country where there are no...
Where there are schools and there are no teachers.
Yeah, or there are no schools at all and there are children. So we transfer them to Murang'a.
All right. So That's it. If you want your 6,000, Muranga 200K is I think 300 shillings.
I think that's a clarion call for men to go to work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
Yeah,
still,
basically
we are too many people for this country.
You need to get the jembes
because our arable land is about 10% now. It's moved away from 16 that it used to be when we were in school.
Yeah.
Now, the real arable land is about 10.5%, feeding all of us. The only water we can use is about 0.5% of all the water that we have in this country is what we can use.
But see, Arnold, with technology these days, man, I mean, any land is arable.
But
I mean, with
we
greenhouses.
depend.
But in reference to this Muranga story, which land are you guys talking about
is
exactly?
rain-fed. So we have to wait for God to send rain.
You see, like, for example, they
Na
say,
imetokaje kutoka mambo ya pregnancy mpaka ikafika kwa shamba? Which arable land are you guys talking about?
You have got a spoiled mind.
I just wondering the transition.
I think I see Bitoko migrating to Muranga. Because clearly there
But the
must
problem they are not rewarding
be
us.
shortage of human
If it was
beings in
about
Muranga.
them, we could have. If it was about
But
rewarding
then
them,
let's look at it this way. If there are very few people in Muranga, then we fold up that county or we merge it with Kirinyaga or Kiambu. And then
Kiambu is close, huh?
yeah. So we merge it. So then we don't
Kiambu
have to
is too
spend.
big.
We make it part of Kiambu, part of Kirinyaga.
It should be part of Kirinyaga.
Or even Embu. See, they also border Embu at some point.
You can still redefine Kiambu. Kiambu is already too big for itself. And they are complaining about the number of the people and what they are getting.
So maybe you split
Get
Kiambu.
Thika, take back. You know, there's a section of Thika that is in Muranga.
Muranga, yeah.
Get a section of Thika to go back to Muranga if they really want a sizable number.
Your tackle of the day, Arnold. Your tackle
I've just spoken the last person.
Okay.
I'm still thinking.
of the day, Doctor.
I think for me, my tackle of the day is this. I've been watching social media and listening to. I wish the president and his deputy could now change the tone. Now that they have a cabinet, I would like them to see that cabinet actually get down to work. Let's stop any further reference to election, because I think it keeps on coming. And a lot of Kenyans are actually getting angry. Why take us back to election? I think this government now needs to sit down and actually do the actual work. Remember, they promised Kenyans that within 100 days, certain things will happen. I think people are watching this now almost what? I think they've got a few days.
70th or 60th?
Something like that. But anyway, be that as it may, my tackle of the day is just that we wish the cabinet well. I hope that Penina Malonza will still not be the only tourist in the Ministry of Tourism, like some people said. I hope she will sit down to work and deliver. And I think also the government of administration of President William Ruto. But it is the administration of President William Ruto, not my government. The government belongs to the people of Kenya, but the administration is his. So we look forward to this government, our government, this administration, actually beginning to deliver. But let them also not change goalposts. Because initially it was, 100 days, you will see some changes. Now it has moved to 1 year. Give us 1 year, you will see changes. I mean, please, let's stick to election promises. You are now in government. Tuache mambo ya kulalamika. Tufanye kazi.
Arnold.
Well, just before I talk about my tackle, I think it's important to just point out that I still believe Penina was unfairly targeted because all those other people were not even coherent in their... a number of those people who showed up.
Ministry needs someone who can communicate.
As in, why that? Every ministry is important. For example, let me go to a place where it's actually safe to talk about. Did you listen to the governor, the central bank governor, right? The former central bank governor, right? Even MPs actually had a problem with, or is it because he's a professor, so he can actually, even when he comes off, like he's not really flowing. So for me, Malonza was just lacked the charisma. And it's also a fearful thing to meet Parliament. Parliament is so big a call for an ordinary person. There is other people like Daktari here, probably yourself, are used to meeting people and those guys in other spaces, so you might not be afraid. But it's not easy to actually just go meet those guys asking those questions, and the whole world is watching. I didn't know that charisma was one of the biggest check boxes that anyone was supposed to actually meet while before that particular committee.
And also how fast you can make them emotional.
Yeah, giving them a sob story and telling them how, like all of us come from humble backgrounds.
How you walk barefoot.
Yeah, and all of us, literally.
Humble background is not a qualification.
shouldn't be a qualification. You should not sober us into giving you a job. We should not sentimentalize that. You should be competent. You should be able to do the work, qualified, competent, a person who cares, and somebody who really understands that. My tackle for the day is clearly on the promises politicians make before elections. Probably they have not looked at the architecture of this particular constitution and understood it, knowing too well that in the first 100 days, half of them will be you trying to actually come up with your government. So I hope William actually goes ahead and puts in place the PS. Now that he's done away with the Uhuru's cabinet, it's important that he moves very fast.
Have so they been interviewed? Not yet.
They've been interviewed.
The PSs?
I think, yes. The process is over. And then Parliament should also expedite and make that vetting important. For the rest of us, I think it's time for us to go back to work.
That interviewing of those PSs was so cosmetic in my view. I mean, you look at the time allocation. Actually, now I remember.
Yeah.
If you look at the time allocation for the interviewing of each of those PSs, it looks very cosmetic.
And so you look at it, and I think it's time for the president and his government to settle down and do work. We've had enough times about our competitors. He's been so busy talking about our competitors and our competitors. His deputy has been talking about William Zawa Kitendawili. It's important that they settle down. We've not seen anything from them. The only thing we've seen from them is Miguna's return. And we did not go
and attending church services.
And we did not go to vote so that Miguna comes back home. We were voting so that then the government we bring in can deliver for us. It's good. That Miguna thing is a footnote, but it cannot be the only thing they can actually demonstrate after 40 days. We need them to actually settle down and do work. There's quite a number of things they can do. Low-lying fruits, reining in the cost of food, cost of living, for example. Those are things they can do. An executive order can take care of that. It can still work. So we want to see them work, go out. But over and above, for me, I want to challenge the president to respect the Constitution. If it were not for the Constitution, he would not be president.
Even though you oppose this Constitution.
William Ruto opposed this Constitution, but this Constitution defended him when he needed it most. He should defend it. He should not be like his predecessor who ignores court orders. LSK has gone to court. They've gotten an order and even an extension to that effect. He should not start on the wrong footing. So for him, let him surprise us as a person who campaigned against this Constitution, benefited from it by being the first deputy president. And when a people
the Constitution protected him even when he had been sidelined as a deputy president.
So when a few people decided to ignore this Constitution and persecute him, this Constitution showed up for him. He should actually stand up for this particular Constitution. He doesn't have to like it. He's a Christian, and by the way, I know he doesn't like everything in the Bible. All of us are human beings. We've got our own passions and everything else. We don't like everything in the Bible. But then we all understand that the Bible is not written in pencil. So where it's said do not, even if you like it, you cannot go ahead and then erase that note. So even this particular Constitution is not just an opinion. It is the supreme tool we have to organize the state, to organize how we run our affairs. He should not start on the wrong footing. Let no one lie to him. He has got people, by the way, who are quite ideological. People like Murkomen. He has got quite a number of people. Kipchumba Karori, who's come from this particular small platform, Apa Kwetu Apa, and he's now his legal affairs secretary. The president should not be lied to. He can still get around the Constitution without breaking it. You know, the law is bendable. At worst, let him bend it, not break it.
And you know, they should stop also showing us that they have gone to this church, they have gone to that church. Come on. You know, when you go to church to pray, it's your relationship with your God. You don't need to broadcast it to the world. We see more of that. Deputy President attending this church here in each county. When you pray, my friend, it's your, you know, you've been a bishop, so you understand these things.
I'm still a bishop.
but I think that is unfair. You know,
watu wakienda sherehe bado watu wanapost. Lakini
watu wanaenda kuchapa sherehe usiku wanapost.
Niliona nani mtu wa makao ako na sigara yake. Ile sigara ilikuwa bangi.
Hiyo sigara
ilikuwa kindugu.
Anyway, you see, we
must laugh.
We must express our conscience, we have faith and whatever we want to do. Just the same way he actually articulates his academic mind. So I've also realized that people did not vote for Wajakoya. But they took all his manifesto. You see it everywhere, at least in their posts, the way they do things and the way they behave. As in, Wajakoya manifesto yake watu walichukua. Lakini ni yeye tu peke yake hawakuchukua.
I talk about vetting. So another lady in Kilifi County who was trying to explain blue economy. She said blue economy comes from the sky. From the sky, the way the sky. From the sky, and it is everywhere.
Seriously,
I think her explanation was the problem. Because the sky generally, because of the some refraction process, your light ends up looking like it's blue, and that is what the ocean reflects. Probably she was trying to explain that. As in,
but you see, Maliba, basically, some of those things require you to have basic knowledge of, and that again goes back to the heart of who we put in a certain docket.
She was an MC actually asking a nominee a question, and as she tried to explain her question, she said, blue economy came from the sky. What are you planning to do about it? Mtu amejikakamua bwana.
And that's why.
But I think many of us also don't know what blue
even
economy
as an MCA, well, if you choose to ask a question such as blue economy, at least have some basic knowledge of what blue economy
research.
is. You can even just Google quickly and before you ask your question. So I think it goes back to the whole infrastructure of government. Wherever we give responsibility, even if you may not be the expert in the field, you
need some level of competence.
Some level of competence and knowledge. For me, is very key. I mean, even for us as lawyers, cannot say we are experts in every field of law. But the fact that you studied law, in fact, one of my professors used to say, I will not teach you law, but I will teach you where to find the law or how to find the law. So basically, even for these ministers, principal secretaries, you may not be an expert in agriculture, but what basic knowledge do you have, or competence do you have to be able to speak matters agriculture, to speak matters tourism? Kidogo basic knowledge.
But you see, no one has got an excuse. Anyone who has had basic education in this country should not have an excuse where they come off as blonde or people who don't know anything else. Because you realize that unless now you are in a very specified course, a number of the things we do in college, honestly, are things you already have got an idea. Even as we do introduction to what, you already have got an idea. So generally around agriculture, anyone who went to school should have a level of say to that. When it comes to how, even tourism, children out here today can actually challenge you about tourism, tell you so much about it. So I still find it not excusable that adults who claim to have gone to school can actually come off and sound so ignorant. That is not anything that we should actually forgive.
But Maliba, there are clueless people in government. Even if but going to college is one thing. But also being a passenger in college is another thing. There are many people who just passed by. At Uliana University, so there are people who just go there to become passengers and they live without it. You see, you're talking about education,
yes,
not necessarily going to
college.
See, you can leave college.
You don't have to go to school to be
college. Be educated.
You can leave college and live very uneducated.
Worse than you went.
Uneducated illiterates. There are so many of them out here.
Educated fools, actually.
Educated fools. There's so many. So education, when you're educated, then it means you even know, matters beyond just what you read.
All right. 6 minutes past 9 a.m. This has been Sheria Wiki edition of the 28th of October 2022. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Dr. for coming in. Asante sana Maliba for coming in as well. Thank you for the tacklers who have been with us since 7. It's always a pleasure to have you. Able to see you again on Monday. On the Common Sense
What is
edition.
the vote? I see you put the vote on...
What is the vote? What was the vote for whether we will not be
position?
I think that's Steve. Check it out. And I still want to remind you that you can wear the biggest brand in town. You can get your Takolo Udi for only 2,500 Kenyan shillings. WhatsApp your order to 779-800-010 or 779.
But they already have mine.
You already have it. But you didn't wear it to work. By the way, you didn't wear it to work. You didn't wear it.
I think my daughter stole it from...
Your daughter has already removed. That is good marketing because they move around more.
Anyone out there who really wants a proper way of running this government, we need the caste position. We need politicians in high places who can speak for us.
This rate talk, I think Maliba has been promised this position.
The way he's fighting for it, I think you have to fight.
Not really. I worked under a very educated CS. I can tell you we had a problem with our clients, which is the public. Every single day we had demonstrations. And it was a
So
simple
how will
thing.
the CAS extinguish that?
That would be the person who actually can then, it's the plug of sensibility, of political sensibility in the ministry.
No, I think we should need to talk directly with the CS himself. That is the person who given the mandate. Let him come and address the people.
You guys made a constitution that make these guys think they are technocrats removed from life as it is.
No. The constitution is absolutely clear, Arnold, that you are a public officer. And there are certain principles that guide you being in a public office. Even if you are a technocrat, but so long as you run a state organ, a public office, you cannot run away from your clan, who you rightfully describe as the public.
Whatever way you say, I still feel we need, the function of a CAS is important. I'm actually like advocating that we need a deputy CS.
And a deputy CAS again?
No, as in a deputy CS, as in eventually we need to stop skirting around this issue. And now, you see, like now, William is trying to solve that problem.
Hebu tupigie William Ruto, tupatie tu Maliba hii kazi.
Arnold Maliba for CAS.
Na hata akikataa, I will be the people's CAS.
You'll swear yourself in.
I'll swear in myself.
The more ministers we have, the better for the tackle. At least nikikuja hapo, unanipea kitu hapo.
Lakini usishangae, hapo Karuri anatusikia. Usianze kutuzimia masimu.
Nafaa tupiga hata tujue.
We know where he lives, hata akihama. We know where he drinks.
Unajua mahali atamu.
Na hata akikataa, we know where his in-laws are.
If you cannot find, you will find the law. In law. It's always a pleasure to have you guys, gentlemen. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again on Monday on the Common Sense edition. Enjoy your weekend and take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.